It's Monday, February 5th. I'm Scott.
And I'm Rim.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight we discuss the IT Professional's Toolbox.
Let's do this. You know, we were actually somewhat productive this weekend.
We were productive this weekend, but now I'm all...
How come? We got plenty of sleep. Well, you got plenty of sleep last night. I stayed up playing Civilization 2 again.
I did, but I ate very off schedule today, which kind of messed me up. And also, I got this tough job switching situation trouble to go through. As soon as that's all over, I'll be all set.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we did a lot of work on the DVD, which will be coming out sooner than you might expect, but not as soon as you might hope. Yeah, more importantly, we also finally have decided to make some promo CDs, which you'll only be able to get if you come to Katsucon.
Yes, there'll be Katsucon exclusive promotional CDs. So if you come to Katsucon, you get one. If you don't come to Katsucon, you don't get one.
Well, they are technically exclusive. That is correct. It is not a lie.
And we're going to do that at every convention from now on, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take us much effort. Basically, we just record an opening bit, and then we stick a random episode of Geeknights on after it.
And then we got to burn a whole mess of CDs.
Yes, and let's take stock of the burners we have in this house. We have my Plextor 820 SCSI from before CDRWs were commonly available that doesn't even work properly anymore.
It's so useless, it effectively doesn't count.
I can't make it work in Linux. That SCSI card is just too busted and old.
Oh, I bet you could. It'd just be hard. It wouldn't be worth it.
I couldn't with the token effort I was willing to put forth.
I said wouldn't be easy. We've got a Plextor 8432, which is my first burner. I paid $150 for it in 1999 or 2000, I forget. Probably 99. And yeah, it's not in a computer. I've got it. See, I got this thing I bought, which is pretty handy. We're actually going to talk about this today in our episode. It allows you to take any IDE drive that you have, be it a CD-ROM or a hard drive or anything, and turn it into a USB drive. So we have this CD burner attached to a $20 crap computer with this device, and it's effectively an external CD-ROM.
After we finish the show, I'm going to attempt to actually burn something over this link. I imagine it'll work.
It did. I tested it yesterday. It worked.
Yeah, we'll see if it works on the $20 motherboard.
That's a good question. I did test it with a Windows and Nero.
See, normally I wouldn't be leery at all. I mean, a motherboard's a motherboard, but this goddamn motherboard.
$20, you get what you pay for.
It's
a miracle that it works.
We're lucky it works. It didn't work at first.
For anyone out there who's poor, in the poorhouse, and you are willing to suffer with a computer that kind of works, $20 motherboard's the way to go. All right. What else? Oh, I've got a burner in my computer that's a relatively new Plextor. The thing is, I bought it, and I was like, ooh, it was my first DVD burner. But I never had to burn a DVD with it. I just bought a DVD burner. And I burned many CDs with it, and it worked just fine. And about many months after buying it, I tried to burn a DVD, and it didn't work. It's the only unreliable Plextor I've ever seen in my entire life. And Plextors have a really good warranty. I'm just too lazy to send it in to get it fixed. So it's just a CD burner.
Last and least, we bought a brand new LightScribe DVD drive to make the DVD with.
We bought a $30 Light-On burner, and it works amazingly.
Yeah.
Compared to the hundreds of dollars I paid for that Plextor that doesn't work.
Well, the thing is, back in the day, a Plextor was the gold standard. I mean, you might not remember.
It still kind of is.
It doesn't matter anymore at all.
It doesn't matter, though. I wouldn't buy one anymore.
So it's not really the gold standard because silver works just fine, so no one even bothers with
If I was
gold.
a super professional, I would buy one.
I wouldn't. There's no reason to.
But yeah.
But back in the day, way back, for some of you might be too young to remember that CD burners didn't work.
Yeah, you would buy a burner, and the more money you spent, the less often it would screw up. It's like you would buy a $50 burner. All right, but it's only going to actually work 30% of the time.
You'd have to decide based on how much CDs cost and how much your time is worth, how expensive a burner you're going to buy, and how many coasters you're willing to put up with. And the thing was, the only burner that could work all the time was the Plextor. And the Plextor cost a lot more money than anything else.
That's why I paid a total of probably more than $300 for 2 Plextors. And Rim has one too.
Yep, and I went above and beyond because I decided I would like to be able to burn things while I do other things on my computer, which back then you really couldn't do. Even with a Plextor, if your computer didn't have a lot of RAM, which most computers didn't, you couldn't play Quake. You couldn't have more than 1 or 2 IE windows open. It would just mess up your CD. Or with the Plex store, it'd be all fancy and slow down the burn so it wouldn't mess up.
Yeah, it depends on which Plex store you had. They added more technology to them over the years.
So I, being a fancy lad who knew a little bit about computers, a little bit, I decided that SCSI was the way to go. So I got a SCSI card and a SCSI burner. And let me tell you, I could burn CDs at 8X while I played Quake.
That was good.
I was very pleased with that.
Yeah. Oh well, nowadays it doesn't matter. Just get a burner for $30. They all work perfectly.
Yep.
They burn everything. It's like dual layer is not even a big deal anymore. You can just burn whatever you want. The big deal in the future is going to be the HD, DVD, and the Blu-ray burners, which don't really care so much.
Well, I'd
no
like
one
one.
can read them, even if you make them.
I'd really like to have something like that just to back up Geeknights, considering
Yep, I agree.
Considering that Geeknights won't fit on anything we have other than a hard drive or a veritable pile of DVDs.
Yes, however, distributing, I mean, if we distributed data Blu-ray discs or data HD DVD discs, no one could use them. That's why we have to put out a DVD set.
Yeah, but internally, if I could buy for a reasonable price an HD DVD or a Blu-ray burner, I probably would.
Yeah, the price is going to go down. I'm going to start looking into it.
Here's the problem.
I imagine in 6 to 12 months, you'll be able to get them for less than $200.
But here's the problem. There are other formats on the horizon already that are so much better. There's really no the technology is moving so fast that moving to Blu-ray and HD DVD doesn't seem like it even really matters because the next set generation is going to be even better.
Also, you always have to count in the price of, getting a NAS with a RAID 5 and a whole bunch of hard drives or something like that.
Yeah, those aren't always the best option because those let you have live backups, but they don't really let you, unless you really want to be fancy, have the, definitive backup, more for enterprise stuff than us. But say you want to back up a file regularly as opposed to just having a backup of the most current file.
Yep. I know what you're saying. All right.
It's not a thing most people care about.
Nope.
So, in the news, now, this shouldn't really be news to anyone out there, but the AP Wire had a story. I'm looking to it on The Guardian, but it doesn't really matter. No one's writing checks anymore.
Oh, gee, that's a big surprise. I haven't written a check. I don't write checks other than for rent. Ooh, we got to pay rent. What day is it?
You have to pay rent.
Oh, it's the 5th. I'll pay it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, checks really aren't being used anymore. Checks are being used primarily by very old people. The primary uses of checks now seem to be nothing more than paying a few utilities, but even then, a lot of people are doing it online or through their bank or through other services.
I pay absolutely every bill and do all of my money management via ATMs, the internet. And the only thing I have to do with a check is rent. Nothing else requires a check.
Well, even better, most people, old people especially, who use checks on a regular basis for, grocery store transactions and whatnot, or paying their bills, don't seem to realize that checks don't really float anymore, and they're not processed mechanically anymore. Usually, they're converted into an electronic format and then billed just like a direct checking thing.
Yep.
And this is really starting to screw a lot of old people who are used to the fact that if you write a check, it won't actually hit your account for another several days, so you can kind of float money and live on the edge.
Yeah, I never even thought about that. I've always actually been kind of pissed when I used to write checks way back in the day before I had, any other possible way of paying for certain things. Like, I would buy stuff on the internet and then mail a check and then get the stuff.
Wow. See, luckily,
that was a long time ago.
My parents got me a credit card when I was 16, so I've just pretty much always had a credit card.
Yeah, but, no, when I used to do that, I was kind of pissed that it took so long. Like, I wanted the second that, the check was brought to the bank, I wanted that to be registered so I could go online and see that the money was taken out. And if it took 3 days, I was kind of pissed. So the fact that it's quicker now is better for me.
Yeah, I definitely never floated checks, usually because I didn't want to risk it. I mean, I had a bank that if you overdrafted, they gave you like a $40 per day fee.
Oy. Yeah. I just think checks are kind of silly and outdated, and we should stop using them altogether.
Well, no, they're still used for a lot of things. I mean, large purchases are often done with cashier's checks or certified checks.
I'm talking about personal checks only. Obviously, cashier's checks and money orders and all those sorts of things.
Personal checks
those
are
still
used
have a place in the
lot
world.
for charity donations. If you give money to a charity, you want to give it in a verifiable way, and checks are the easiest and best way to do that. Plus, most charities aren't equipped to take credit cards.
Well, then your charity sucks.
Well, no, because...
Or your charity can take PayPal or something.
No, because PayPal and credit cards have one major thing in common. They skim off the top.
That is true. However, I think there really needs to be some sort of law that says if someone is a legitimate charity that you can't skim off the top when they take credit card donations and such. Because that's actually a pretty annoying problem. A charity will get, like, $10,000 in donations from people and only get like $8,000 because the credit card company charges them money, and it's really annoying.
Yeah, Chris, I don't know.
Especially with PayPal.
Maybe some credit card companies do that, or maybe there's some loopholes we don't know about. So.
Maybe. All I'm saying is if it's not true, it should be true.
Nah.
If I donate $5 to a charity with a credit card on PayPal, the charity should get the entirety of that $5, and PayPal and the credit card company get nothing.
Now, what I actually get from this news is that it must be a slow news day because the AP Wire is running this, and this article doesn't really have anything of note in it. I mean, everything I said...
There isn't like a recent occurrence to trigger this news about something that's old? Because usually that's what happens.
No, nothing's happened. In fact, a lot of the data in this article is from 2003.
Oi.
But the article was posted today. You've said oi like 10 times today.
Yeah, I guess because my stomach is oi.
But it is... Okay.
I told you I ate lunch when I got home from work at 4, and then I ate dinner.
I don't know. When my stomach hurts, I don't say oi. I say...
It doesn't hurt. It's just kind of...
No, I'm not saying that you're saying stuff, but I'm pointing out specifically that you're saying oi.
Oi.
Oi. Oi.
What did the dyslexic rabbi say?
What did he say?
Yo.
All right. But yeah, this article, the only interesting thing here, and it surprises me immensely, that apparently the part of the government that handles processing checks on a national level, through the Federal Reserve and all that, is cutting back on all of the offices that do that.
Wait a minute. Did you just say a government agency is cutting back?
The government is
wait.
willingly...
Wait, someone's here at the door. Let me go see who it is.
All right, whatever you're doing is lame. Just make a joke.
It's Satan. He needs a winter coat.
Yeah, that was really lame.
You suck.
That was absolutely... Oh my God.
You suck.
But yeah, the government is actually shutting down a lot of these processing centers, and by 2008, 18 of the 45 that exist now will remain.
Awesome. Well, maybe, even though, the credit cards are skimming off the top, maybe I'll get some tax money back because I'm not paying for... Because I'm not paying for all those people that handle all these checks.
I have a feeling that for every dollar we're saving from this, there's something going on in certain parts of sand-coated areas of the world that might be preventing us from getting any money back.
That's, surprisingly, that's not the biggest money sink, but it is pretty sucky.
Well, it is, because a lot of those graphs you look at and you point out a lot about, look how much Social Security and all those take.
Yeah, well, Social Security is sort of outside of the budget. It's a different thing entirely.
Yeah, but those graphs aren't the best.
No. It's still, because the problem is no one really knows because the budget is just so big and complicated. I mean, didn't, Bush just submit a budget to Congress that was $2.6 trillion?
People know very much. It's just the issue of it's very easy to make a graph regarding the budget and percentages or gross amounts to prove whatever you want to prove about the government being efficient or inefficient or whatever.
Yep, that's true. All right. So my news. You know the electric slide?
Yeah, it's a generally mediocre dance move from before I was cognizant of the fact that dancing existed in the world.
You gotta feel it. It's electric.
I remember in 5th grade, our teacher, for whatever reason, taught us the hustle, the electric slide, and something else. And
that's good for you. In 2nd grade, they taught us square dancing.
Even better, I remember at Science Olympiad at the regional tournament, right? They taught us this dance. They called it the Mexican Hustle. And, we all thought it was cool. We all did it. And years later, that Macarena craze that went across the United States.
I was part of that craze.
Were you?
Yes, I was. I have a Macarena mix CD. It has 16 Macarenas on it.
I vaguely remember you telling me that, and I think I'd blocked it out of my mind, like in Phoenix Wright with those chains.
I got it for free from Columbia House. I didn't pay for it.
Did you choose it, however?
Yes.
Now, I gotta ask, because for this one case, despite the fact that I'm a geek, I think I was ahead of the pop culture curve. I learned the Macarena, did the Macarena, loved the Macarena, got sick of the Macarena, and decided it was stupid before the Macarena even existed. And
it hit me, I got in right at the beginning, a week before it was on the television, and then I got out 2 months later. The thing is, that was the period of my life, I was around 13 years old-ish. Right? So there are a million bar mitzvahs to go to, and you danced at every single one.
See, there's nothing like that in white bread suburban culture. The only time I ever went dancing is when some friend of the family got married.
Okay, so anyway, the electric slide. Some guy, Kyle Machulius, right?
Whatever.
He's an engineer at Linden Lab. Oh, maybe he's an engineer at Second Life. Anyway, he received a DMCA takedown notice about a video that he shot at a convention showing 3 people doing the electric slide. Apparently, some guy copyrighted the electric slide, and he's sending DMCA takedown notices to every person on YouTube with the electric slide.
Wait a minute. Now, specifically, he copyrighted it. It says copyright, not patent.
Yep. You can copyright the choreography for dances and then enforce the copyright against anyone who publicly performs the dance. So says Jason Schultz, attorney for the EFF. Attorney for the EFF.
What I would point out to the world in this issue here is that according to copyright statute, unless it's different specifically for choreography, once you create something or do something, it's automatically copyrighted.
Yep. In
So
other words,
theoretically-
it is illegal to move. I could interpret
No,
it.
because that would have expired already.
Okay.
However, it is illegal to do what I'm doing right now because I know no one has ever done this before in the exact way that I'm doing it. And if anyone does this, I'm suing your ass.
Yeah, and the other thing is, this guy also made some complaints about people doing the dance poorly. Well, if they're doing it poorly, they're not doing it the exact same way that you've copyrighted doing it.
Yeah, that's
they
just...
slightly modified it.
That's-
Well, no, because they're not allowed to remix the dance. But if you do that, how do you know that jumping up and down and just, waving your hand isn't a remix of the electric
Are
slide?
you sure this isn't some sort of fake news?
This is definitely a real news. It's on CNET, and it's from a staff writer at CNET.
Wow.
And a lot of people are... he even sued some daytime talk show, the Ellen DeGeneres show.
Did he win?
I don't know. He's trying. He's basically sending
Wait a minute. Has he won a single lawsuit?
No, all he's doing is sending DMCA takedown notices right now.
Oh, that's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's so many stories on FARC, someone suing someone over blah. And the fact of the matter is you can sue anyone for anything at any time. The real question is he going to win? And I don't know, but I'm going to bet no.
Yeah. Anyway, he's sending out the DMCA takedown notices, and we'll see what comes of that. It's
Nothing.
yeah. The thing is, you can copyright a dance, which is kind of interesting. I didn't realize you could do that.
Well, we'd better copyright the dance that we do for the Mambaleo.
Maybe we should.
Yeah.
And then anyone who puts videos of it on YouTube is going to get punned.
Unless the original creator of the dance finds out.
Yeah, the thing that bothers me is it says, here, Richard Silver filed the copyright for the electric slide in 2004. The electric slide was created in 76. What the hell?
Huh. Something doesn't add up.
How does that work
Wait,
out?
I got a question. How old is this guy?
I have no idea.
Because if he didn't create it and he just filed the copyright, then it's bullshit.
It's supposedly he's the creator. That's what it supposedly.
And
I mean, the only place I've seen it actually say he was the creator, it said the, quote, creator of the electric slide.
Let's try to track him down and talk to him.
All right, it's all you. Go for it.
All right.
I think it'll be hilarious.
I'd like to talk to this guy. If nothing else, I wish the internet would send him DVD upon DVD of videos of themselves doing the electric slide and or other dances.
We should do the electric slide like everywhere instead of walking.
That might be a little difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to skip all over the place.
I actually kind of forget how to do the electric slide. I mean, I remember some parts. You slide, clap, turn to the side. All right, whatever.
I remember the Macarena better.
Yeah, I do.
God. Yeah.
Yep. You know what? I think it's time for a new dance craze.
Yeah, you know what? The Haruhi.
That's a Japanese dance craze.
That's
I think
fine.
it's time for another American dance craze.
I don't think it can happen anymore. I mean, most dance clubs these days tend to play like house crap. At least the ones around here.
No, the thing is, the dance craze is like the Macarena. We're never in clubs. It's all about weddings and bar mitzvahs.
Yeah, and you know
things
what?
Like that.
Weddings and bar mitzvahs now don't seem. I mean, the last wedding I went to, the only silly dance they did at all, other than the hustle, which gets played everywhere.
Yeah, we
was
got the chicken dance, we got the hustle, we got the electric
here's the
slide,
thing.
we got the Macarena, we got that Cotton Eye
Scott,
Joe.
here's the thing. They
Right?
did Cotton Eye Joe, right? I
Yep.
remember this. At the last 2 weddings I went to, no one knew how to actually dance it. They just danced. Played the hustle. No one knew how to do the hustle.
My mom knows how to do the hustle.
But no one at this wedding did the hustle.
I've always wanted to learn how to do the hustle, but I forget.
I learned it when I was a kid. I know.
I keep forgetting.
I remember about half of it.
We should get a video that tells us how to do it. I'm sure there is one, probably on YouTube.
Probably violating the copyright of the guy who created it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you people out there wonder why we're always so pissed off about copyright laws because things like this happen. I mean, it's one thing to argue that artists should get credit for their work and compensation and whatever. But when something like this happens, that's that's another straw on this camel's back.
Camel's back's been broken for a long time. So I got new camel with 2 humps.
Things of the day. And I gotta say, I'm throwing down when it comes to things of the day this week.
Uh-oh, what are you throwing down?
Well, one thing led to another, and I've decided that I have an interesting theme this week. A theme that I don't think Scott will be able to top, and I give Scott until next week to come up with a theme.
So we're going to sort of have this dueling theme thing of the day. So this week, all of Rim's things of the day will have a theme, and my things of the day will be normal. Next week, all my things of the day will have a theme.
See, I was debating if I should make it a kind of thing where I'll do the 4 things of the day, and then over the weekend, people can guess what the theme was, but I don't think
the theme is so obvious.
Kinda. The theme isn't quite as obvious as you'd think. You might think it's obvious from day 1. Day 2 is probably going to throw you for a loop. Day 3 is going to bring you back around, and day 4, you're probably just going to cry.
Okay.
Right. Now, you see, before, way back, we did a theme week on Things of the Day, and it was Hockey Fight Week. That was well and good, because there are more than 8 hockey fights in the world. But if we try to do any kind of unified Thing of the Day theme week, we realize that now we have to find 8 related things of the day that are all at least above the line.
Ooh, it's not easy. Unless it's something, already existing.
So thus, I'll tell you the story of how I came upon this, because I've come upon it twice. I was watching, I think, random Family Guy episodes and clips on YouTube.
And YouTube has that handy feature where when you're done watching a video, it says, hey, check these out.
So I was just surfing through them by clicking on the recommendations. And after Family Guy, it eventually took me to Spanish Family Guy. And then, in the bottom right, I see a picture of Hitler. And I think, Hitler, eh? How is this related? So I click on it. And it was the short version of my thing of the day. And I thought it was entrancing and hilarious. Forgot about it. Totally forgot about it. This was weeks ago. Fast forward to this weekend. I'm sitting around. I'm watching random Space Ghost on YouTube.
Hey.
One thing leads to another, and I end up watching Monty Python instead.
Why would you watch Monty Python on YouTube when you have every DVD of it?
Because it happened to be recommended to me, and it was a sketch I liked.
All right.
And then I noticed that the recommended sketch is one of my favorite sketches, one that I've used as the thing of the day before, Mr. Hilter.
Mr. Hilter?
So I click on it, and sure enough, related to this video, was the same video I had seen before, except this time it was the full version.
Oh, snaps.
Thus, my thing of the day and my theme are one and the same. They're Adolf Hitler, born to be alive.
I think that's all you got to say about that.
I think that's all I have to say about that. I'll warn you, this is one of those videos that if you watch it, 1, the song is going to get stuck in your head. 2, you're gonna get the video stuck in your head. And 3, you're really gonna start thinking about this video in weird... I mean, if you listen to this and watch it more than a few times, it's almost like you forget what Hitler really did, and you only remember him saying, born to be alive.
Yeah, we learned that this song was a one-hit wonder from before our time.
God,
in case you're wondering.
This guy, Patrick Hernandez, did a bunch of disco music, I guess, and this is apparently the only song he ever did that anyone remembered.
All right.
And someone decided to make a Hitler music video to it.
Why they chose this song, I don't know.
Why
they could have made a Hitler video to all sorts of songs.
Why they chose Hitler, but though I gotta say, the voice acting, the voice sync between the guy, Patrick Hernandez, and Hitler is really well done, considering the quality of the footage.
It's about as well done as it could be, considering the circumstances.
I particularly like the use of horns.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
And the use of Nazi youth.
Yeah, too much Nazi youth going on.
All right, so now that my awesome thing of the day is out there, I can sit back and drink brandy. What have you got?
All right, well, there's a story on some dude's, I guess it's his blog, I'm not sure, that made the rounds, and it's pretty short, so I'm just going to read the whole thing. He says, well, my father heard about Vista coming on the news. For anyone who doesn't know, Vista came out last week. Since he was interested in getting it, he asked me to obtain it and install it on his computer, and he would give some cash in return. I told him I was going to do that, but instead, I installed Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
Later, when he came home from work, I showed him his new Vista install, complete with the latest Office and Solitaire. It's been a few days since that, and now he says Bill Gates is better than Steve Jobs and brags about how OS X on my iMac is obsolete compared to Vista on his PC.
So when's this guy going to let him in on the secret?
I will continue with the prank for some weeks, after which I'll tell him the truth and give him back his money.
Wow. I don't know what to say other than I don't think Microsoft's inherent old school monopoly or the preference people seem to have for Windows is as strong as everyone thinks it is.
Well, I think it just shows the power of branding and, ideas. It's like people go, a new Windows. They don't actually know about their computing or think about it. And it just, this is just circumstantial evidence here. But I truly do believe that Linux is better for a lot of people if they would just accept it. And if the thing is, because you say to them, you're going to use Linux instead of Windows, that's a change and they're afraid of it and they don't want to go for it. But if there's no change for them to be afraid of and you give it to them, it is better for them. They just don't know it. And they'll like it if they would give it a try and be more open-minded and get rid of their misconceptions about what Linux is or, lose their fear of the unknown and change.
Yeah, the only thing is, like some people, I'd love to give it to my parents, but they have a lot of old Windows weird proprietary programs that they really like to use and don't exist in Linux.
Yeah. The thing is, my parents, they browse the web. They do email, instant messaging. All that normal stuff that everyone does. Email, web browsing, instant messaging, watching videos, photo management, all that sort of stuff. Linux, perfect, no problems.
Yeah, pretty much.
Especially Ubuntu. So,
Ubuntu.
What the hell? This guy also has a funny Photoshop here of a Windows Vista Ultimate box, only he replaced the Windows logo with the Ubuntu logo. It's kind of nice.
Right.
So, yeah, if anyone out there is thinking about getting Vista, I tried it out for 5 seconds in the store, and it looked like Windows to me, with a big bar on the side and some fancy graphics.
All right, a bar on the side, eh?
Yeah, you can put widgets in it and stuff.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm sure you could probably make it go away, but yeah, that's what Vista is. And, if XP is no longer supported and you're tired of it, before you try out Vista, you're going to erase your hard drive anyway. Why not try Ubuntu first? It won't hurt you. It's free. Okay.
Right, so we're both computer professionals. I'm an IT professional and Scott's a CS professional. And we carry around with us in various situations a number of tools of the trade. I mean, if you see a plumber and he's going to do some plumbing, he brings plumber's equipment with him. A carpenter brings carpenter's equipment. So you might be asking...
Yeah, carpenter's got his hammer and nails. Plumber's got his wrench.
What on earth do computer people have as the tools of their trade? I mean, it's not quite as clear-cut as a lot of people might think it is.
No, it is not. I mean, a monkey wrench really doesn't help you with a computer. Neither does a hammer and nails.
A hammer and nails might.
Hardly ever, though. It's not a common tool.
If you need to destroy a hard drive in a hurry.
We don't need chainsaws. All the standard tools you see at Home Depot, power drills, not too useful for computer guys.
However, Dremel, incredibly useful.
Well, for hacking or modding, yes. But for normal computer use, not so much.
Also as a low-powered electronic screwdriver.
Yeah, I think an electric screwdriver is better than a Dremel.
Yeah, but if you're we're geeks. We want to have the most functionality for the least money.
That is true.
So obviously we're going to have the
screwdrivers can be had for pretty cheap if you don't want the best one, though.
Oh, we always want the best one.
No, you don't.
Anyway, no, you always want the second best one.
That brings us to the first tool every computer guy ever needs. The Phillips screwdriver.
Yeah,
the standard-sized Phillips screwdriver is a computer guy's best friend. I mean, I just keep buying more of them because I can't have enough.
See, I used to, 5. But actually, ever since I started working at this new company, I have... See, we'll talk differently because there's the, what you have around the house versus what you bring if you know you're going to be futzing with someone's computer versus what I carry around as a professional in my professional life. And they're 3 very different sets. However,
they are very different.
In my professional life, I was given a tool set that includes a very nice, very sturdy manual ratcheting screwdriver that has
ratcheting is good.
Has about 20 different heads for it. Every different size of screwdriver ever, including the hex bits with the holes in them, and the proprietary HP bit.
Ooh, a proprietary HP bit.
Yes, for working on HP racks.
Ooh, if you could only get the Nintendo bit, that's the big one.
Actually, you know what?
Or do you have the the tri-wing, that's also a good bit to have.
You know what? I haven't even gone through a quarter of these things yet because I don't need them all in my day-to-day work.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The Nintendo bit's actually called Game Bit. It actually has a name. I think it also opens old Macs, like Mac Pluses and Mac 512Ks.
I'm fairly certain I have enough stuff in my toolkit to open any Nintendo thing.
Perhaps. Anyway, yeah, you need a Phillips screwdriver. I prefer this most standard, basic one you can get, but anyone will do. If you like ratcheting's great. Magnetism is great.
Yeah, one thing. A lot of people worry about using magnetic screwdrivers around computers. You're really not going to hurt anything.
Not with a magnetic screwdriver, anyway.
I mean, hard drives are pretty resilient now. You'd have to put a magnet on it, and it would have to be a stronger magnet.
You would have to take a strong magnet, like a neodymium. Well, maybe not a neodymium, but a neodymium would screw it up for sure, and put it on your hard drive to screw it up, or on your CRT monitor.
But aside from hard drives, nothing else is going to get hurt at all by a magnet.
As long as it's off. You don't want to mess around with your computer when it's on.
Well, you shouldn't be messing around with your computer anyway if it's on. Now, here's one way, however, that you can screw up a computer with a magnet. Take a magnet and affix it to the end of a power drill. Turn it on and allow the magnet to spin.
Yes, that will screw up the computer for sure.
But yeah, a magnetic screwdriver is not going to hurt your computer. I really don't worry about that.
It's actually very useful for if you happen to drop a screw onto the motherboard, you can pick it up with the magnetic screwdriver.
Or you just won't drop it in the first place because it's stuck to your screwdriver.
Oh, that too. Another good thing, a lot of computer screws, there seems to be this one screw. It's not the only screw you'll ever find in a computer, but it's very common, that not only is it Phillips, but also you can sometimes use a normal flathead screwdriver on it if you suck. But it also is sort of hex-shaped around the Phillips hole. And you can use this other sort of screwdriver. I don't even know if I really want to call it a screwdriver.
You mean a socket wrench?
It's not really a socket wrench, no. It's
a socket, it's just a small one. It's the same mechanism as a socket wrench.
Yeah, it basically has a hexagon hole in the end of it.
Yes, it's a small socket.
Anyway, they're very useful, and I actually, whenever I have the opportunity to use one, I often do, because I can screw things tighter and more easily than with a Phillips, and there's no worry about stripping any weak screws or anything like that.
Well, what I actually used those for a lot was, at one point at IBM, we were on a very shoestring budget, and I had to put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dataless Linux clients out there. Now, we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of old computers. They're pretty fast, but they weren't being used for anything. So we decided we could use these as the Linux clients, image all the hard drives. I had a script that would change everything so they'd all be unique, whatever. Not going to get into the details there. And it turned out that due to a long series of events that goes back to some sort of corporate espionage between China and Japan a long time ago, a good half of the motherboards on these things had exploded capacitors.
Awesome.
Now, we didn't have any budget, and I really needed to finish this project. So I sat down and replaced hundreds of motherboards. And in order to do this quickly, I came up with a process. And the fastest way to unscrew and screw those motherboards back into those cases was with a socket. I had a power socket set to the right speed. I just went zip, zip, all in a row.
All right, so after the screwdriver, the obvious need tool, and your hands and your eyes, those are very important tools also.
Yeah, now there's the static strap that you don't really need. A lot of people use those because they're paranoid, and
it helps. If you are paranoid, it is guaranteed that
a
you'll
much
be all right.
better way is just to hold on to something that'll ground you.
Yeah, don't wear wool socks and a sweater and roll around on the wool carpet and then work on your computer.
Yeah, don't work on your computer if it's frigidly cold or really, really, really dry out unless you have to.
Mm-hmm. Just avoid any possible chance of creating static electricity. Hold on to something metal. Hold on to your computer's case. Hope it's a metal case. If it's a plastic case, that's not going to help you.
But we're not really talking about it. We're talking more about the tools you bring. But if you don't know how to deal with grounding yourself properly, you can get one of those wrist straps. They work all right. The key is you actually have to click them onto something grounded. Don't just click them to something metal. That's not going to do anything.
I mean, just wearing the wrist strap isn't going to help you. It has this little, wire with an alligator.
No, but I saw a guy working on a computer once at a company that I won't name, and he was working on it, and he had a wrist strap on, and the little alligator clip coming out of the wire on it was clipped to the case of the computer he was working on. Now, the computer was not plugged in and was not grounded in any way.
Not so good. You click it to I don't know. Well, you know what's always grounded, supposedly? those screws right in the middle of a power outlet that hold the thing on, those go right into the grounding
Yeah,
bit.
I actually made a little thing where I could stick it into the third hole on a grounded power outlet. And
That's a good way too.
And I always grounded myself that way if I was working on anything sensitive.
Be careful not to kill yourself though when going near the outlet.
Yeah, it'd be pretty hard for me. In fact, I couldn't physically stick that thing in the wrong hole.
No, you couldn't because you were smart, but an idiot could very easily kill himself playing around with power outlets.
Not with that mechanism, because it's wide and fat. It won't even go into the normal holes. You would have to sit there, filing the edges down enough to shove it into that hole.
Anyway.
It would take you about 15 minutes to kill yourself.
Anyway, yeah, so a grounding method of some sort could be a useful tool for a computer guy. What
Now,
else?
you see a lot of those kits that people sell, like, oh, computer whatever kit. Don't bother with anything like that.
Yeah,
They
I
come
bought the cheapest one from Radio Shack. I think it's still available, but the only tools in there that I needed were the screwdriver, the hex bit, and 2 other bits. One of them was sort of this grabber, and
the grabber's useless.
the grabber is useful occasionally.
I've never needed to use the grabber. Anytime I've dropped something where the grabber might be useful, I could either just reach it on my own, or I could tilt the computer slightly and it would roll to safety. Also, the grabber very easily can scratch things.
That's only if you suck with the grabber.
But why bother with the grabber? The grabber's useless.
I've used the grabber many times when anything else would have failed.
What would have failed?
I drop screws a lot. A lot.
Well, you should get a magnetic screwdriver instead.
I should. But anyway, yeah, if you drop screws, they make these little grabbers where you push a button on the top, and these 3 little metal guys come out, sort of like a claw, a little tiny claw. That's exactly the right size for
I'll warn you right now, don't think, hey, and grab yourself with it. That hurts.
It does kind of
A
hurt.
lot.
Yeah, because they're pointed little metal guys. But, you know, it's the perfect size for grabbing a screw. So let's say you drop a screw, and the screw is in between the video card and the CPU and a capacitor. And you're like, oh, God, how am I going to get that out of there? The grabber goes whoop and pulls it right out.
Yeah, or your magnetic screwdriver.
It depends. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a handy tool to have when working with screws that can fall into tight places that you need to retrieve.
Yep. Now,
Because you can't leave the screw there. That's no good.
but those kits come with a bunch of other crap. Like a lot of times they'll come with a continuity tester that's never going to be useful to you.
I didn't even get one of those.
They'll come with 2 specialized tools, one of which exists solely to remove ICs from breadboards, and you will never
They
need
also
to do
have another
that.
tool that puts ICs in breadboards.
Yes, you will-
There's a chip pusher and a chip ripper.
That was the other thing I was going to mention. You don't need them. You will never...
You needed them 100 years ago.
You know
in
what you
the
need them for
80s.
today? And even then, usually you don't. If you screw up your BIOS so royally that you can't even recover it, which is hard to do because
A
almost...
lot of BIOSes aren't even on those kind of ICs anymore.
Yeah, but most BIOSes now come with an unwritable recovery sector you can boot from in an emergency with a
Yep.
jumper or something.
You're never gonna need to replace a BIOS chip. Trust me.
Yeah.
It's so rare.
But my motherboard right there, I could replace it. So if I screwed up the BIOS, I could probably order a BIOS chip.
You know, I never used the chip pusher, the one that puts the ICs on the boards, but I did on occasion use the chip ripper to get, because it was really good for ripping jumpers
I am the
off.
pusher robot.
It was really good at grabbing jumpers off of things.
See, here's the thing. I have a nice jumper grabber.
Oh, well, that's a tool that you need, is some sort of jumper grabber.
I recommend needle nose pliers. They work just as well.
Needle nose pliers, I think, are the best as long as they are needly enough. I've tried to use needle nose pliers that were less needly, didn't work.
Of course, the thing is, jumpers are fast becoming obsolete. I mean, back in the day, you had to switch like 10 jumpers on your motherboard to make it even boot.
That $20 motherboard had a lot of jumpers.
It did, but nowadays, most hard drives, you don't need to set any jumpers with cable select or serial ATA.
Serial ATA doesn't need jumpers anymore.
And you know what? Contrary to popular belief, non-serial ATA hasn't need jumpers for a long time. Cable select just works.
Yeah, cable select usually works, but I still like to set the jumpers.
Why?
I like to.
You know, I used to, and I unset them all when I started moving hard drives around between all the computers in my room. Because
Huh.
I kept making them master slave, and it just wasn't worth it. So I just pulled all the jumpers out. They were all cable select, worked like a charm.
Hey, awesome.
Also, my old RAID thing that I never really got working from way back in the day wouldn't work unless everything was set to cable select.
Whoa, crazy.
I never really figured out why, and I didn't really care.
Yeah, I just wouldn't ask the question. But
Really important. A lot, we talked about you need the Phillips head screwdriver. Even though most things have thumb screws, you still need that screwdriver, believe me.
yeah, I mean, I've had thumb screws that just won't come out, and I need to put a Phillips screwdriver into the thumb screw to get it off.
Independent of that, you need a flathead screwdriver, but you need a special one. You need what is a flathead that is effectively just a mini crowbar. It needs to be really durable, really solid, yet small. And the reason is, with modern socket processors, usually there's this weird mechanism that holds the heatsink on.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. You're smart.
Because at IBM, I encountered that because my computer's so old that I had a slot A in there for the longest time.
Yeah, when you install the heatsink on a socket processor, well, this is how to install a processor on a motherboard, a modern processor, right? First, there's a little lever on the motherboard. You pull the lever out and up. That's easy enough, right? You can do it with your hand. Then you drop the chip into the slot. That's pretty easy because there's only like 4 possible ways it can go.
And it'll only actually go in one of those ways.
Yeah, if you have to push the CPU down, you just screwed up your CPU. Congratulations.
Yep, you just set it on there. And
it falls into the holes.
It usually lines up. There'll be one clipped corner and line the clipped corner with the clipped corner on the socket.
Yeah, it's not hard. Then you put the lever down. Now the CPU is installed, but you need to put a heatsink on top of it. Well, the heatsink is a big block of metal. And it has this metal clamp that kind of swings back and forth. And some of them have
clamps?
Yeah, the clamps. And sometimes they have fancy clamps. Sometimes they have really simple clamps. The way the clamp works is the plastic socket that the CPU just went into, on 2 sides of it will have these hooks. And you take the metal thing on the heatsink. Well, first you rest the heatsink on the CPU in the correct orientation. Then the metal thing that swings back and forth, you put it under the hooks on one side. You can do that with your hand. It's easy. But now you have to get the other side of this metal thing under the hooks on the other side, which requires a lot of pushing.
Yeah, a lot of people are really afraid, how fragile their processors are. But you'd be surprised how much force is actually used to hold a heatsink directly against that thing.
It is very important that the heatsink does not fall off. Therefore, this clamp is very...
Well, it's not just that. It's that it has to be perfectly tight and sealed effectively.
Yes, and...
I mean, it's not going to fall off.
Yeah, and the equipment is made to withstand the amount of force required to install the heatsink. Don't worry.
Yes. Now, keep in mind, it's taken to withstand normal, gradual force. Don't hit it with a hammer.
No, don't do that.
But the thing is, to get it in there, there's a slot for a flathead screwdriver. If you use a cheap screwdriver, especially if you try to use one of those little black ones, the little like eyeglass screwdrivers, even though they fit in there just fine, you'll just bend it right in half.
Yep. You need to get a nice, sturdy, flathead screwdriver, stick it into there, and then you will be able to easily, with a little bit of practice, push that metal clamp under those hooks and have your heatsink installed properly. So if you're ever doing heat sinks on or off, you need that flathead screwdriver because you also need it to get the heat sinks off, to get, push it down under the hooks and then out.
Now, other than things like extra screws and all that, there's really, in a basic level, nothing else you need to work with computers.
No, I mean, you could do 99% of computing tasks with those tools and your hands.
However, let's say that you also are going to be doing some troubleshooting. Or, these are just things you should also just always keep around your house to mess with computers. Not so much tools, but just useful bits. First and foremost, and I can't recommend this enough, get a power supply tester. They're real cheap. You plug them into a power supply, you turn them on. They trick the power supply into thinking that a motherboard is plugged in, and they allow you to power up a power supply. 90% of the time, if you can power up a power supply, the power supply is good, and now you know that the problem is something with your expensive motherboard as opposed to your cheap power supply.
The reason that you need a power supply tester, but you don't need a specific tester for anything else, is because power supply problems are usually a little trickier to diagnose than other problems. Let's say
no, really, these things by default only test if a power supply is dead.
Yeah.
Because if the power supply is dead, if the computer doesn't turn on, all right, any number of things could be wrong.
Yep.
So the first thing you should test is the power supply, because most of the time, that's the problem.
Yeah, we learned that lesson the hard way in the year 2001.
Yeah, partly because power requirements for PCs had gone up quite a bit suddenly, and we didn't keep track of that.
Nope, no one told us.
We were trying to use 200 and 300 watt power supplies on 400 and 450 watt computers.
Yeah, it didn't turn out so well.
But the thing is, power supplies, you might wonder, how does the computer know to turn the power supply on? Because the power supply turns on independent. It turns on.
The power button that you push to turn your computer on is connected to the motherboard. The motherboard is connected to the power supply. So turning on the power supply, the motherboard has to do something.
Yeah, basically, it shorts out 2 of the pins on that connector you shove into the motherboard, especially, like the old standard ATX power supply connector.
Yeah, the old ATX connectors had 20 pins, the new ones have 24, which sucks.
Now,
no one told me about that either.
You might think, why can't I just short those pins out and test it? And the answer is, the power supply is smarter than you. If it doesn't notice a load on the wire itself out there, it won't turn on. So power supply testers are a thing that you stick onto the wire, you turn it on, and not only does it short those things out, but it has a bunch of resistors, and it puts a load on the power supply. Now, you can't turn these things on for more than, 10 or 15 seconds, so they start heating up.
Yeah, it's pretty much just a tester. Click, it's working, click.
Now, you can use these also if you're more adventurous with a voltimeter to see if the power supply is actually good, but
There are also fancy power supply testers.
In general, you really don't need to, because 9 times out of 10, if the power supply is dead, it's just not going to turn on at all.
Yeah, power supplies these days are really smart, and they have a lot of logic and things in them. So, like, if you hook up too much stuff to a power supply and it's not going to be able to power everything, it just won't turn on.
Also, if it will turn on but is giving bad voltage, you can go to your BIOS and look at the voltage coming in. The motherboard knows, and the motherboard can tell you if it's bad.
Yep. All right, what other tools are... Oh, number one... If you're working with, let's say some IDE hard drives, you want to have some extra cables. If you're working with SATA hard drives, you want extra SATA cables. Any sort of little wire that's going to be inside the computer, pretty good idea to have some sort of backup. Get some extra Ethernet cables, video cables, USB cables. All kinds of cables are useful to have. You never know when the cable's the problem, or, oh, I need to hook up something extra, but I don't have the cable to do it. Oh.
Yep, it's always good to have a power supply adapter splitter just in case you need one more device.
Yep.
Of course, you don't want to use too many of those.
No. An extra CPU fan. Now, you might be thinking, CPU fan, they're kind of expensive. Well, and usually, you buy one CPU, it comes with one fan. How are you supposed to get an extra one? Let me tell you, many times an extra CPU fan has come in handy.
Yes.
How often do you go to fix someone's computer and it was just a problem of they never cleaned their computer, their CPU fan full of dust, now it doesn't work?
Of course, very important, always carry around the can of air.
Oh, the can, how could you forget the can of air?
Because it's right there, it's in my closet.
Yeah. Can of air is, I think it's up there with the Phillips screwdriver. We shouldn't have forgotten it this long.
No, because I don't bring it everywhere. I only bring it if I know I'm going to clean a computer. Because if I don't,
that is true. But
if I don't know I'm cleaning your computer and I come to help you and your computer needs cleaning, that's the end of our day.
Yep.
I'm not cleaning a computer.
It is a common problem.
But the easiest way to clean out a computer is just to take it outside and spray all the relevant bits with compressed air. Now, make sure you use a can of compressed air. Don't use a compressor. Compressors can make static electricity.
That is correct.
You want to use cans of compressed air.
Now,
don't try to be clever.
Yeah, and while you go to the store and those cans of air that you see at Staples or whatever are kind of expensive, just deal with it. You're not going to get them cheaper anywhere else.
Yeah, really. I mean, if you try really hard, you can save a couple bucks. Just keep a can of air around. They actually last quite a while.
And they are really useful.
Actually,
really useful.
You always want to have 2 cans of air because I'm not going to get into the physics here. You guys should know this stuff since most of you have gone through at least high school. If you have a can of compressed air and you use it for more than a trivial amount of time, it starts to get cold. The colder it gets, the less effective it's going to be until it warms up again. However, you don't want to just warm it up with a heater because then it'll explode.
And you'll kill yourself.
So what you basically need to do...
That's a YouTube video. Throw a can of compressed air into a fire.
That's a bad idea.
That's a great YouTube.
But you got to have 2. So you use one, and the moment it starts getting really cold in your hands, you set it aside, let it warm up while you use the second one, and you switch off between the 2. Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of your air at a much lower pressure and not get your money's worth.
That is correct. And sometimes, a lot of people, they're dumb, and they use one, and it starts getting cold, and it stops squirting out air. They think it's done, even though they only used it for 5 seconds. I've seen that happen a lot.
Also, if you want to have fun, you can turn it upside down, and now you basically have a liquid death ray.
Don't do that unless you know what you're doing. It's dangerous.
Yeah, it's also really fun.
And dangerous.
Yeah, don't try this at home, kids. But yeah, also, you need to carry around things like, an Ubuntu CD.
Yeah, not everything that you need for tools is hardware. There's a lot of software stuff that can be really even more handy.
Yep. We don't really need to go into all of them, especially not specifics because it changes a lot.
The only specific one I want to mention is the OPH crack CD. I've never used it myself, but from everything I hear, supposedly, you can just use this CD to break into a Windows machine if the password is messed up.
I have actually broken into dozens of Windows machines as a part of my job at IBM and at RIT. I didn't use that, though. I used a boot disk called Astrumi that did the same thing.
Yeah.
Basically, there are like 4 different ways to hack Windows passwords. I don't know if these work on Vista, but they work on XP, they work on 2000, they work on NT.
98.
98's a whole different bag.
Yeah.
Don't even worry. Don't try.
The thing is, you'll probably run into a Windows machine that you can't log into as administrator, or someone forgot a password, and these CDs are really handy. Some of them might take a while to break the password. Some of them don't take any time at all.
No, they don't break the password. That's not what they do.
Some of them do. It's
No,
different.
you can try to break the password. That's going to take forever. It's generally a losing proposition, and you don't want to do it. The best way to do it, I forget what the tool is, but on the Astrumi thing, you can find it. Maybe I'll post in the forums. But what you do is you use a hash function, and you can basically change someone's password to whatever you want. But you can't get their password. The only problem here is that if they have encrypted volumes, you won't be able to access them unless you figure out their password. However, if they left any data non-encrypted, especially if they're not the brightest user, you can usually find hints as to what their password actually is. But yeah, also, I always carry around a D-band disk. D-band is pretty much my favorite nuke a hard drive in a hurry disk.
My favorite is D-band, Derek's boot. That's the one. I was like, I use a different one, Derek's boot and nuke. And then I was like, wait a minute, D-band is Derek's boot and nuke.
Yeah, every company I've ever left, I always D-band my hard drive when I quit. I'm done. Here's my blank computer.
Yep, Derek's boot and nuke is basically the CD that you boot off of it, and it will completely erase whatever hard drives you tell it to. Not just erase, but super erase, so that there is basically no mathematical possibility of recovering the data off of that hard drive ever.
It has various Department of Defense standards in it, all sorts of different things you can do. It's highly effective. It's very fast. It's very good.
It will make a hard drive, the entire hard drive, full of zeros or full of ones or whatever, and no way to figure out what those zeros or ones used to be in any point in time.
Yep, and of course, if you're working on, Muggles PCs, it's a good idea to have a Windows 2000 and a Windows XP CD, just in case.
Ubuntu CDs, Knoppix CDs, those are very useful.
Just have a CD binder full of stuff, flash drives full of stuff.
Yep, the most useful thing about a live CD, really, is just, if their computer's broken and you need to go on the internet to find some answers, the live CD is going to be your only way unless they have 2 computers. A laptop is also a really good idea. If someone has a computer that's not working, or maybe an internet connection is not working, get a laptop with some Wi-Fi or some, cell phone type wireless with some EVDU and a PCMCIA card. And that way, no matter what someone's situation is, you have a working computer that you can use to revive the other not working computer. It's very hard to fix a broken computer when you don't have a working computer to help you out.
Yep, or not even a working computer, but at least a set of all the parts of a computer that are known good. That way, you can play the process of elimination game where, well, I can't make that hard drive work. Let me see if this hard drive works. Oh, it does. Mister, your hard drive's broken. Or, oh, it doesn't. Maybe something else is wrong.
You know what else is really useful? A mouse and a keyboard.
Yes, now, we fucked up once.
We fucked up a couple times.
Make sure that you bring along a USB mouse and keyboard and
a PS2 adapter.
Yes, because we went to Citicon with our Mac, and we were all happy, and we had this cheap keyboard and mouse that we just brought with us. We get there, and we're about to set up our podcasting rig, and I go behind the Mac, and I go, huh. And I go to Scott and say, hey, Scott, here, plug this keyboard. And he's like, what, why? And he goes down, and he goes, huh. The Mac doesn't have a PS2 port. Anyway,
and we had a PS2 keyboard.
I could cry.
Yeah. So get a USB keyboard and USB mouse. You can get really cheap ones. And get the green adapters that turn USB into PS2. They're super cheap and common. I have like a sack of them.
Or the purple one.
Oh, the purple one. Oh, yeah. That's for the keyboard.
Not that it matters.
The green one's for the mouse.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked a bit here, but before we end, we are professionals, so maybe you'd like to hear, I won't go into a lot of detail, but the kind of stuff I carry around in the course of my daily duties at my job. Because I carry around a very specialized set of equipment, far above and beyond anything the vast majority of you would ever need. And in fact, I don't need most of this stuff in any of my non-work life ever. Of course, I carry everything we just talked about. I have this gigantic briefcase. It's like, God, it's like 1.25 feet wide and 2 feet wide the other way and 2 feet tall. It's this massive, heavy thing. I carry around like a 1 meter, a 2 meter, and a 4 meter fiber cable with various connectors on the end. I carry around like 4 different lengths of Ethernet cable and a couple of crimpers and some crossover cables and all that stuff.
Those are real useful, to just, hey, crap, I need another Ethernet cable because someone wants me to hook up a router and they don't have an extra. Make one.
Or a recent incident. Oh, we're hooking up 2 active devices, yet none of us have a crossover cable. Why isn't this working? Help us, RIM. Help us.
I will just make one. What's the colors again? Bring a little guide.
White and orange, white and green, blue, white and blue, green, white and brown is a B connector.
Yeah, if you can't remember the colors, like Rim can remember the colors.
You won't. Don't worry.
Bring a little piece of paper.
Don't worry about knowing those things. Just print out a little thing and carry it.
That's what I
you.
said.
Yeah, because I know it because I do it a lot, but you don't need to know it. And if I didn't have the job I have, I wouldn't know it.
If we had to look it up how many times at RIT?
God.
Every day?
In fact, I don't even need to know it at my current job. I needed to know it at IBM. I don't need to know it here because here we just buy cables.
That's no good.
The pros and cons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I carry around a full set of tools. Now, when I say a full set of tools, I mean ranging from socket wrenches to hammers to power, everything. For building server racks and putting together routers and UPSs and batteries and things.
That reminds me. You need cable ties. Cable ties are real useful.
Now, if you can afford it, this sounds silly, but they're actually expensive. Your best bet is always Velcro.
Velcro cable ties are like the sexiest cable ties you can get.
They're
especially
solid gold.
If you're even sexier, you can get multicolored labeling Velcro cable ties.
Yeah, now, I carry around approximately 50 to 100 feet of Velcro with me at all times. Maybe it might be in the trunk of my car or in one of my other duty bags, but I have it available because that stuff's handy. I also carry around some very interesting things. I carry around a Fluke, which is basically a super, super, super cable tester. It also is a toner, so I can figure out where a cable goes. I carry around 2 different labelers. I mean, it doesn't matter so much in your house. You don't need to label.
You could use the cheap labeler from Staples. That's like $20.
But even then, you don't need to label your computer my computer. You know it's your computer. You know which computer it is. You don't suddenly forget, is this my computer sitting on my desk with my porn on it?
Yeah, you don't suddenly forget, hey, which video cable coming out of my computer is the video cable? Let me label it, video cable.
Yep. So I carry around a normal, a normal Circuit City whatever brother labeler. And I label the fronts of servers and switches and whatever. But that's whatever. That's nothing. I also carry around a Brady labeler. Now, this thing was like $500. It's good God, but it looks like a heavy-duty piece of equipment. It's like super awesome construction yellow with shock mounts. It takes these gigantic cartridges of all different kinds of labels. If you look in like a plumber's closet or like at a gas station, like a power station or some kind of industry thing, you see those gigantic, like fancy labels on like gas pipes and oxygen pipes and all that. This is the machine, pretty much the only one that people use to make those things.
So that's what it is.
Yeah, and I have all the different kinds of labels. I have ones that'll resist acid, ones that'll go outside, whatever. Very cool are the ones that I use on, say I'm doing a...
Do you ever use the ones that resist acid?
No, I just have them because I have a bunch of cartridges.
One day you're gonna have to label a computer in an acid bath.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna use those.
Actually, that would have been handy at IBM.
Oh man, scary.
Yeah, IBM was actually a scary place to work sometimes. I mean, I'd be next. There was a vat of a fucking deadly chemical. Like, touches me, I'm dead. Cancer. There was a vat bigger than our house, full of it. And there were like these double walls and this retaining pool around it in case it broke or something.
Well, at least you got some safety there, so you'd be able to run away if something happened.
But just every day, if I went into that part of the factory, I'd walk by it. I'd always just kind of look at it like,
I would also go. I would walk fast.
Of course, then there were the Tachikomas, and I'd totally forget and play with them.
Yeah.
No, really, we had these little robots, but
yeah, they weren't Tachikomas.
No, but they were as close to a Tachikoma as we've gotten in this world.
I think there's better out there, but anyway.
Yeah. All right, but this labeler will also make self-laminating cable labels. So say you got a switch or a router with like 1,000 cables coming out of it. They're all labeled with this fancy little labeler that makes these awesome little self-laminating, wrap around a cable, everything's repeated, perfect label.
So some guy comes along and he goes, hee 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 hee, and he unplugs every cable from the router. And the cables go like to another room somewhere, and there's no way to tell which cable goes to which computer somewhere else. They're all labeled, so you can just pick them up and put them back in the Switch, and you're all good.
Yep, or more likely, if I'm fixing a problem that some got caused somehow, and I'm unplugging a bunch of stuff in order to diagnose it, and then now I'm done, and I got to plug all that stuff back in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's real easy to unplug something and not know where
Hey,
where to
I'm
put
here
it.
standing holding 50 blue cables. I don't know where they go. I can't pull them out. I can't possibly find the other end. There is no way to do that. It would take hours. And they have to go back in the right holes on this box.
Yep.
Oh, gee. There are 25 times 25 possible combinations.
And of course, last and not least, other than, I got to carry a bunch of weird stuff around. Like a tile puller to pull tiles up in a data center, raised floor and all that. But I've got this little metal bit that I got from someone who got it from one of the HP contractors who came in and installed a server rack one time. I don't know if anyone out there has ever worked with like modern server racks, but essentially they're these little square bits that you put screws into, and you stick these bits at the rack elevations where you want to install your servers. It's a pain in the ass to install these things in anything, and you basically have to sit there crying, trying to use a pair of pliers to manhandle the thing in. I have this little bent piece of metal, and with that, I can put 100 of them in the time it'll take someone with a pair of pliers to put one in.
Awesome.
And if you ever end up working with any HP person who is building a rack for you, ask them if you can have one of their little thingies, and they'll know exactly what you're talking about, and they'll give you one.
Ooh, handy trick.
Yeah.
Who else makes rack mount stuff that you might need to ask for a different metal thingy?
Actually, IBM, pretty much racks are standard.
All right.
IBM uses a different metal thing that's far more complicated, but serves the same purpose.
Okay. I've never actually mounted anything in a rack, even though I've mounted ATX mid towers in racks.
Yeah. See, it's weird. Like I've mostly worked, in fact, I've only ever worked at monolithic, gigantic companies. And Scott's only worked at very small companies. And we both make the same amount of money. It's just totally different work environments.
Yep.
Like, you'll write code for a server, and I'll have to install like 100 UPSs. That sucked.
Yep.
That really sucked.
How much did it suck?
You know how much a UPS weighs?
That reminds me of something else you need to bring with you. A freaking power strip. Good God.
Yes, bring a power strip with you everywhere you go.
Even
for
if
the
it's
rest
a
of your life.
shitty $2 one, bring it.
Yeah, you will never have enough power outlets unless you build a house that has nothing but power outlets.
Yeah, you'll go to someone's house. You'll be like, oh, yeah, can you do something to my computer? Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, look, there's enough outlets, but you have these giant AC adapters, and I can only use 3 outlets. I wish I had another power strip.
God, there was that one year, way back, we all went to the shore with our friend Scott Johnson and his family's awesome beach house. So we're all hanging out there. We're all geeks. We all bring like 3 or 4 things each that need to be recharged.
I had an iPod, a cell phone, a DS, and a laptop. And I brought a power strip.
So multiply that by everyone in the crew who was there, and there aren't enough outlets on that island for all of us. Let alone...
I brought a power strip for me.
I brought a power strip for me.
And people who didn't, it sucked for them.
Yeah, you generally want to bring a power strip everywhere you go.
Lots of cell phone power swapping going on. People who had the same cell phone kind of benefited. And, everyone has a DS, and the DS chargers are all the same. So.
Yep.
Oh, except people DS Lights, I think, is different, isn't it? Or is it?
I don't even know.
I'll get one day.
I'd assume it is, just because Nintendo's that way.
I don't know. I think they actually changed it on this one. I'm not sure.
No, I mean, I'd assume it is different.
Oh, okay.
That's where I was going.
Well, the SP and the DS have the same one. But
Yep,
the Micro has a different one, and I don't even think the Lite is the same as the Micro. We got to check on that.
Yeah, you know what? I don't even know.
Someone will tell us.
Because the thing is, Nintendo's got me by the balls, and if I want their product, I'll just buy it and take it like a man.
Yeah. Oh, well. Yeah, I mean, it's been a DS flood, but that's not what we're going to talk about.
God, I still, as cool as the Wii is, I played the DS more still.
Well, at least right now I am. There's been like 4 DS games in rapid succession.
On that note, I got to solve the mystery of who shot that guy.
And I have to go hit a lot of monsters with swords.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.